You're pretty tall. How tall are you? Thanks. I'm 5'9". You're not too short yourself. Yeah, but you're Asian. Asians are tall. Are your parents tall? Kind of. What do you mean? Don't you live with your parents? I do, but I also don't really know. How can you not know? Why won't you answer my question? I'm adopted. I don't know. Oh, well, you kids are special. Hi, my name's Felicia Helmlinger, and yes, that was a real conversation I had with someone as I checked them out at the grocery store. I'm a transcultural and transnational adoptee from China. High school was when I first noticed that being an international adoptee impacts my identity, experiences, and the way I interact in the world. But it wasn't until this past semester that I started to truly engage and explore what being a transcultural and transnational adoptee is and started interacting with others in this community. I wanted to understand the transcultural, transnational adoptee experience. So I conducted 6 interviews with other international adoptees to hear about their experience growing up in a culture different from their biological family. Dialogic personal narrative research involves interviewing participants to understand their perspective while allowing the researcher to reflect on their own experiences through reflexive autoethnography. Transcribing narrative research through interactional analysis emphasizes a co-constructed story between the teller and the listener, which can reveal data encompassing a more in-depth awareness of the transnational adoptee identity. Now, most adoptees share 2 common experiences. The first one, which is also what some identified as the biggest challenge that they wish others understood about what it means to be an adoptee, is that our adoptive families are our real families. Now, I'm going to read a portion of one of the interviews with you. The left side includes the original interview, and the right side is my unspoken internal response. The second part of the interview is transcribed to show the unique speech pattern of the interviewee. For embodied personal narrative research, how an individual body performs a story to another is central to the analysis. This transcription reminds the reader to remember the body that told the story, not just the content of the transcription. I just had people who were like, so you don't know who your real parents are? You don't know who your real sister is? And I was like, I do. Like, my real mother's at home right now. Like, my real sister is also here. Um, that's the worst. I never wanted people to see me with both my parents because I was afraid people would ask me that. I thought that if people only saw my mom or dad, that I could possibly get away with having a mixed family. And so I think that's when I started to feel like I had to justify that I was a part of this family. Um, I know I don't need to justify my belonging, but sometimes I felt obligated to over explain. That's uncomfortable as well. That I fit in, that we were a family, that this wasn't just some smushed together piece of mess. Like, it was complete. Um, do people really see our families as a mess? I know your family is complete. My real parents, the people who love me, the ones who raised me, my parents are at home right now. Um, I know who my real parents are. Me too. There are forever families. The second shared experience of international adoptees is our gratitude for our current life and our families. Across interviews, participants recognized how different their lives could have been and are extremely grateful for the opportunities that they have had and the place we are in now in our lives. Three other recurrent themes emerged from my interviews. Participants had varying experiences and reactions surrounding these themes. The first theme is a connection to one's birth country and culture. Some participants placed a huge value on staying connected to their birth country's culture by celebrating and learning about their traditions and the language. If we celebrate New Year's Eve and Day, why shouldn't we celebrate the Lunar New Year? But others had no interest or desire to form that connection with their birth country, feeling that we are American and the United States is our home. Others fell in the middle. They tried connecting with their birth culture when they were younger, but are no longer connected. For example, some had tried language or dance courses, but as they got older and found other passions, they fell out of that habit. But reflecting on their relationship with their culture now, they want to try and revitalize that connection. The second theme to emerge is a connection with one's biological family. Some participants communicate with their biological family, but not all. And for those who don't know their biological families, feelings are varied. They may have no desire to think about or look for their biological families because they recognize how fortunate they are and don't want to disrupt their current lives. It takes a lot of vulnerability to look for one's biological family, and it's not something everyone is ready or will ever be ready to do. Some interviewees question why we were given up. We are allowed to wonder. Some had interest to look, but many did not. And for some, these questions evoke sadness. Some felt that even if they did decide to look for their biological family, they may never find them. And accepting that they may never know why they were given up or the circumstances surrounding that decision is very difficult. It is important for adoptees to be allowed to be sad and grieve this loss, even if we love our lives now. The third theme is about our experience and tension with stereotyping and racism. Transnational adoptees who are not transracial adoptees did not experience the same tension that transcultural adoptees faced. When transracial adoptees face stereotyping and racism, their verbal and unspoken responses varied based on who they are. Some receive stereotypes about being Asian, like, you're Asian, so you must be good at math. And stereotypes are not appropriate whether you are adopted or not because they're hurtful and perpetuate racism. They're hurtful whether someone is good or bad at math. And some who do fit the typical stereotypes feel compelled to justify their identity as being adopted and American. There's a desire to show that they fit in and that their success is based on who they are as people. Some feel insecure about their race in settings with others who look like us and others who come from the families we grew up in. Some said they had been described as bananas or Twinkies, which is defined as looking Asian but being white on the inside. They felt as if they were not quite Asian enough to fit in with the Asian community, but also not white enough to be white. For some, it was irritating to receive racism from white people, but they felt guilty when those same aggressions came from Asians because that is their birth culture. And some expressed being unsure of how to be confident in the face of racism because they didn't grow up in that culture and don't have relatives to instill pride in their history and race. We use dialogic, personal narrative research to promote connectedness and empathy for others who share a similar identity and experience, but also to raise awareness for others who do not share our experience. Being a transnational and transcultural adoptee is complex. Even though we all have this shared identity, our experiences are still different and individual. When interviewees were asked to pick one word to describe or represent their experience as an adoptee, this is what they said: appreciation, sadness, lucky, blessed, American, and complicated. Thank you.